How's it going, everyone, and welcome to the Thinking Blue podcast. I'm your host, Blake Harris. Now, it's been a while since my last episode. I moved back to Arizona for school, spent a few days moving, and then I actually went back home to LA for a few days, but I left all my equipment here, so I wasn't able to record a show. The last few days, I've been finally getting everything all situated, so I'm officially good to go, so it's officially time for a brand new episode of the show. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the past series against the Atlanta Braves, as well as previewing the upcoming series against the Toronto Blue Jays, who are coming to Dodger Stadium for the first time since 2007. We're also going to be talking about some roster moves that are going to be coming today, and we're also going to be talking about the Dustin May situation. I know on Twitter the last few days, a lot of people have had a lot of things to say about Dustin May. I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the situation and talking more about that. But let's start now with the Atlanta Braves series. The Dodgers traveled to Atlanta. It was a really anticipated series because myself included, I think the Braves are the Dodgers' biggest threat in the National League when the playoffs roll around. So a lot of people were, excited for this series to see how the Dodgers would do against the Braves. The Braves took 2 out of 3. The Dodgers were able to win the first game. Now, if it wasn't for a late inning comeback on Friday, it could have potentially been a sweep for the Braves, but thanks to a 3-run home run from Max Muncy, a solo shot from Justin Turner, and then a 2-run home run from Will Smith, the Dodgers were able to defeat the Braves 8-3. So this was a very exciting game because it looked like the Dodgers were essentially having nothing going at the plate for them. They were losing 3-2 for most of the game, and then in the 7th, they completely switched things up, which was great to see against the Atlanta Braves bullpen because everyone was talking about how the Braves bullpen was such an upgrade after the trade deadline, and the Dodgers were able to attack on some runs against them and get the win. So a very, very good game. Kenta Maeda got the start for the Dodgers. He went 4 2/3, allowed 3 runs, struck out 9. Now, he got rocked early on, allowing those 3 runs in the second. The damage could have been more, but he was able to work around it. But after that second inning, he was really able to work around things. The 9 strikeouts, I think he struck out 7 in a row, which tied Kershaw's 7-in-a-row streak that he set the other day. But Kenta Maeda, a really good outing. Adam Kolarek, he came in for an inning and a third. He allowed no hits. And then Julio Urias, he threw the 3 scoreless innings, striking out 1. I'll briefly touch about Julio Urias later on in the episode as well. But great game for the Dodgers. Great seeing, the late inning heroics from Muncy, Turner, Will Smith. So they were able to get 1 win in the series. But, aside from those late inning runs, the Dodgers offense could just not really get anything going the rest of the series. They lose on Saturday 4-3, only scored 3 runs. They were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They left 10 runners on base. And Hyun-Jin Ryu, for him, it was his second worst start of the season. Obviously he can't allow 1 or 2 runs every start. He had to have another start where he allowed a few runs. He goes 5 2/3, allows 4 runs, strikes out 5. He got into trouble early on in the 3rd inning, allowed those 2 runs. And, the Dodgers were able to tie the game for him, but in that 6th inning, Hyun-Jin Ryu just couldn't seem to get out of trouble. He allowed the home run to Josh Donaldson. He allowed the home run to Adam Duvall, and things kind of just fell apart for him. The Dodgers were able to put a run on the board in the 7th inning, but couldn't get anything going on after that. As I mentioned, they were only 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They left 10 runners on base, so they had their opportunities. They definitely had their chances to add some more runs, but they just couldn't do it. Hyun-Jin Ryu gets the loss, and his ERA on the season now is a whopping 1.64, so that's pretty good. We're a bad start for Hyun-Jin Ryu. His ERA is still at 1.64. He's likely going to finish the season with the best ERA in the National League, probably in all of baseball. So, Hyun-Jin Ryu, a bad start was expected out of him, but 5 2/3, 4 runs. I'll give him that. He's allowed to have one bad start every now and then. Moving now to Sunday's game, this is probably where I'm going to spend most of the time talking about in regards to the series. The Dodgers got on the board early. Cody Bellinger hit that 3-run home run early on, and the Dodgers had the bases loaded in that first inning, but the 3 runs were the only runs they were able to get the rest of the way. Now, I don't have the numbers right here in front of me, but I believe the Dodgers finished the game going, I think it was like 1 for their final 22, 1 for their final 23. Essentially, after the 3rd inning, they were held hitless. They couldn't get anything going. Much like the day before, they did absolutely nothing with runners in scoring position. They left 7 runners on base. They were 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. So, an overall really, really, really forgettable 2 games from the Dodgers offense. It was great that they were able to get that 3-run home run from Cody Bellinger, but aside from that, the offense contributed nothing. Jed Jerko had 2 hits. He was tied for Justin Turner with the team lead. So it was a very forgettable day for the Dodgers offense. This is something that they've been struggling with well, not this year, but in previous years, they've struggled with hitting with runners in scoring position, hitting with 2 outs. I mean, that's one of the main reasons the Dodgers offense has been so good this year, or they've been so much better, is that they're among the top of the leaderboards in hitting with runners in scoring position, hitting with 2 outs. Just, on Saturday and Sunday, they just couldn't do it. But the real takeaway from this game on Sunday was Dustin May. Now, Dustin May made a few starts with the Dodgers, the number 1 pitching prospect, and he looked really good. He looked really good. It looked like moving forward, he would potentially be in that start-in rotation. But earlier in the week, Dave Roberts said that he wants to move Dustin May to the bullpen for a game, give him a few innings there, see how things can work out. So it was announced that Tony Gonsolin, which, by the way, he got the start on Sunday, he was great again. He threw 4 innings, allowed only 1 run, struck out 2. I mean, his lone run came in, his final inning, but he looked great. I thought it was a great outing from Tony Gonsolin. Pedro Baez then came in, and then Dustin May came in to pitch the 6th inning, and things they got away from Dustin May. He was getting ahead of hitters. I believe the first 3 hitters he faced, maybe the first 4 hitters he faced, however many it was, he had 2 strikes in each count. I think he had a 1-2 count, then an 0-2 count, then a 1-2 count. So he allowed all 3 of those guys to reach base. Now, Dustin May just had a problem retiring those guys, finishing them off. And then, of course, he allows the grand slam to Ortega, and that's when things kind of just fell apart for him. But the thing I'll give Dustin May credit for, after, he allowed that grand slam, he really settled down. Those were the only runs that he allowed. He didn't have a strikeout in his 2 innings. I wanted to see him get a strikeout, but he threw 2 innings, allowed those 4 runs. Now his ERA on the season's 4.26. And a lot of people were calling out Dustin May. A lot of people were calling out Dave Roberts on Twitter. Well, then again, everyone calls everyone out on Twitter. But everyone was saying Dustin May definitely should not be in the bullpen moving forward. It was a bad move. Now, okay, the guy allows a grand slam in his first outing in the bullpen. It happens. I think Dave Roberts made a great call trying to put Dustin May in the bullpen, see what he can do. This is the first time Dustin May's ever had to come out of the bullpen, so obviously it would have been great to see him throw 2 scoreless innings, but I don't think everyone should be overreacting the way they are. I think Dustin May should continue getting work in the bullpen, because that's where he might be needed come October. They still have to figure out the whole situation with Rich Hill, whether they want him to be a starter, whether or not his innings are going to be built up enough for him to be a starter, or if they're going to need, Dustin May to be the starter. But either way, I think it's smart to bring Dustin May out of the pen. I hope moving forward they continue to try it, because I still think that he'd be a great addition out of the Dodgers bullpen in October. Or, he can be that guy where he'll get the spot start where he'll start 3 innings, he'll start 2 innings, and then they'll go to a bullpen game. But I really hope they keep giving Dustin May work. I liked what I saw from him in his outing. As I mentioned, he was getting ahead of all the hitters. He just couldn't seem to put them away. Hopefully he'll take this as a learning experience. I'd rather have him allow a grand slam in a relief appearance now than in October. So I'm glad that he got this out of the way. Hopefully he can improve moving forward. But Dustin May in the bullpen, I really hope they keep him there. I want to see how he can do. But the Dodgers fall 5-3 to the Braves. They had an off day yesterday, and now they got 3 games against the Blue Jays. But I'll talk about that Blue Jays series a little later on. Now, at the time I'm recording this podcast, it's only 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday. So by the time this is up, these roster moves might have happened. They might have not. So I'm not sure what exactly is happening. But Kike Hernandez and Chris Taylor, both of them are going to be coming back from the injured list today, meaning there's going to be 2 players that need to be optioned or sent down or DFA'd, however the Dodgers want to do it. So it's a matter of who are the Dodgers going to send down. Now, I don't want to make predictions, but I could easily guess that one of the moves they're going to make is probably going to be Kyle Garlick. I assume that he's going to be one of the guys that's going to be sent back down to AAA, meaning who's going to be the other guy. I don't think the Dodgers are going to send a pitcher down. I think they're going to keep their pitching staff in order, meaning there's going to be one other position player that has to go down. And my 2 guesses are either Matt Beatty or Christopher Negron. Now, I think it might be Christopher Negron. I'm not sure how they're going to handle him. I'm not sure if they're going to DFA him or if he'll accept, an option down to AAA. I really hope that he stays, because I've absolutely loved his game the last few weeks he's been with the Dodgers. He gives his 110% on every play. Last week in Miami when he essentially almost broke his entire face just trying to catch a ball. I've loved his game. He seems like a great guy. And the fact that he's able to be so versatile, he can play all over the field. Although they're getting Chris Taylor back, they're getting Kike back, those guys can play over the field. You can never have too many guys that can do that. So hopefully Negron can stay. Matt Beatty, he's been great, but he's not really going to be getting that much consistent playing time, especially with these two guys coming back. So send him back down to AAA, give him consistent at-bats. I mean, he's a guy that needs more at-bats a week than Negron does, so hopefully the Dodgers send Matt Beatty down and Negron can stay, get some more playing time. But if this is Negron's final time with the Dodgers, I mean, he made quite the impression. I remember a few weeks ago when the Dodgers acquired him, Dodgers fans everywhere were going, what is this move? Who is this guy? Why are we acquiring him? And he quickly became a fan favorite. So hopefully for Negron he stays, but we're going to have to wait and see. But it's going to be good to get Chris Taylor back. It's going to be great to get Kike Hernandez back. Both Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez were fantastic. They were really hot at the plate at the time of their injuries. A lot of people have been calling for Kike Hernandez to be sent to the minors or DFA'd, which I don't understand why, because I get his numbers on the season aren't as impressive, but over the course of his it was 4 or 5 weeks, he was one of the hottest hitters on the Dodgers. So it's going to be great to get those two back. Hopefully it's, they're not going to need that much time to return to form. I wouldn't be shocked if one or two of them are both in the starting lineup tonight against the Blue Jays, but we're going to have to wait and see. But this roster, I tweeted about it the other day. It's going to be getting a lot of changes in the coming weeks because Alex Verdugo is going to be coming back. Rich Hill is going to be coming back. All the September call-ups, all that fun stuff, whenever Austin Barnes gets recalled. So this roster is going to be having a lot of moving parts, not to mention whenever David Freese comes back. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Jed Jerko. He looked really good the other day, but not sure how much room on the roster there is for him. We're going to have to wait and see. I mean, this roster is changing every day. They're finding players to plug in and play different spots, put them in different spots on the starting lineup. So it's been fun to see, but it's going to be interesting to see moving forward how many more moves this team makes, because I think there's still a lot coming. All right, moving on now. The Dodgers welcome the Blue Jays to Dodger Stadium for 3 games. I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, but this is the first time the Blue Jays have traveled to Dodger Stadium since 2007, and it's only the 3rd time ever they've been at Dodger Stadium. So I always like whenever some of these rare teams come to Dodger Stadium to play the Dodgers. Hopefully Vladimir Guerrero Jr. plays. He had an injury, I think, on Sunday. He's, I think, day-to-day. I don't think it's going to be an IL situation, but he still hasn't, confirmed whether or not he's going to play in this series. I really hope the Dodgers can face him. I think it'd be great to see him go against Clayton Kershaw. And plus, he's one of the most exciting young players in the game, so hopefully he's good to go. I mean, if not tonight, hopefully tomorrow or Thursday. Hopefully I can see him for at least one game. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, the Blue Jays come into town. They're 52-75, so they're one of the worst teams in all of baseball. I'm anticipating a 3-game sweep. I think this should be a very easy series for the Dodgers, kind of like a little warm-up for their Yankees series, but this is a really good Blue Jays team, especially over the last few weeks, especially since all their new young guys have come up. Bo Bichette, Biggio's kid, not to mention Vladimir Guerrero Jr. This is a very young, exciting team, and, who knows? They have nothing to lose. They have nothing really to play for, which could be a threat for the Dodgers. So the Blue Jays, I definitely think you should watch out for them, but as I mentioned, this should be a 3-game sweep for the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw goes tonight. He's been fantastic on the season, 12-2, 2.63 ERA, 141 strikeouts. He's coming off that start last week in Miami where he struck out 10 and 7 scoreless innings, didn't walk anyone, and he struck out the first 7 batters of the game, which he was so close to potentially making it 9 or 10, because on that 8th batter he had 2 strikes. If he would have struck him out, he likely would have struck out the pitcher, giving him 9 consecutive strikeouts to start a game, which would have been the MLB record for most strikeouts to start a game. So that would have been cool to see, but Clayton Kershaw has been phenomenal this year. Over the last month, I think his ERA is 1.4. He's holding opponents to a 160 batting average. His strikeout per 9 is 12 strikeouts per 9. So Clayton Kershaw over the last month has been really good, but this season, I mean, he has been nothing short of spectacular. Still having a 2.63 ERA by his standards is not good, but he has still been one of the best pitchers in the National League, and quietly, over the last month, has been sneaking his way into potentially the Cy Young conversation. I still think Hyun-Jin Ryu and Max Scherzer are the 1-2 punch, but who's to say Clayton Kershaw can't finish at 3rd or maybe even 2nd if he continues this dominant stretch? So Clayton Kershaw making the start tonight. Tomorrow is going to be Walker Buehler, who, luckily for him, it's going to be at home. I mean, at home he's undefeated, has an ERA of 2.3. His strikeout to walk ratio is insane. His whip is 0.8. He's been fantastic at home, whereas on the road, he struggled last week in Miami. I think he allowed 5 runs. So Walker Buehler, he's going to be back at Dodger Stadium. I'm expecting another huge start from him tomorrow. I'm expecting probably at least 6-7 innings, probably at least probably at least double-digit strikeouts. It's going to be a good start for him. So I'm excited to see Walker Buehler, especially go up against these young guys. I really want to see a Walker Buehler-Vlad Guerrero Jr. matchup because I want to see Walker Buehler hit 98, 99 on the gun and watching little Vlad Jr. trying to get a hit off that. So that's going to be really exciting. And then moving to Thursday now, Kenta Maeda is going to be on the mound. Just like Walker Buehler, he's been much better at home. I talked about his outing in Atlanta last week. So Kenta Maeda, he's going to be going on Thursday. Now the Blue Jays, as of right now, don't have their starters announced for Wednesday and Thursday. They just have tonight's starter announced, who's Sean Reed-Foley. But he's like an opener type guy. He's only going to go a few innings, so I'm not exactly sure who the Blue Jays plan on starting the rest of the series. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But my guess is the Dodgers take the series, they get the 3-game sweep, and they head into that Yankees series on a 3-game winning streak. Alright, we're going to be moving over to Twitter now, where, as I always do, I end the show answering some Q&A questions from my Twitter account, which, by the way, here's another plug. If you haven't already, make sure to go follow me on Twitter, at BlakeHarrisTBLA, where I interact with you guys, and whenever I record a podcast, I ask you guys to submit questions, and I'll get to those at the show. So I tweeted this yesterday, so let's go and see what kind of questions we got. The moves of acquiring Jerko, Negron, White, and Plain Rios, how would that have any effect on Freeze, Chris Taylor, and especially Kike options for postseason roster chances? Well, I think if all the guys are healthy, I think David Freeze, Chris Taylor, and Kike Hernandez are going to be postseason roster locks. I think Jed Jerkathan is probably the next guy in line. He would probably fill in for that David Freeze role if he's unable to go. I think the same what goes for Negron, where if Chris Taylor or Kike goes down, you have that guy that can play all over. He can play any position. I don't think Tyler White has any spot on this roster. I think the second he's back or the second a move happens, he's going to be DFA'd. I really like Edwin Rios. I'm glad he's starting to get more playing time, but I don't think there's any room for him on the postseason roster unless another injury happens, maybe like a Jock Peterson, where the Dodgers really need a power bat off the bench where he'll be used as like a pinch hitter type role. But I think for the most part, all those guys the Dodgers acquired are kind of just backup options if the main guys get hurt. If the Dodgers fail to win the World Series again, what would you consider to be the best course of action? Because they obviously have a great core of talent and lots of young guys, but certainly there's some dead weight worth trimming. Now, yeah, it's a very popular question to be asking. You know, if they lose their third consecutive World Series, do you move on from Dave Roberts? Do you try to switch up some personnel? Like, what do you do? I mean, if the Dodgers make it to the World Series and they lose, now, depending on how they lose, now if it's like a 4-game sweep, things go wrong, but if it's like a 6 or 7-game series and the Dodgers lose, obviously they were close enough to get there again. I think the Dodgers should just stand pat. I mean, they have a roster where next year they're going to be competing, the year after they're going to be competing. I do think Dave Roberts is one of the better managers in all of baseball. At times, I do think he overmanages things. Sometimes I think he has some questionable starting lineups. He makes some questionable decisions. But for the most part, I don't really know if you want to replace him, who's going to be a better managerial candidate. I don't think there's really any out there that are going to be better options to replace him. So we're going to have to wait and see. I mean, if the Dodgers lose the World Series, that's going to be a real bummer. But I don't think they should go switching things up. I don't think they should, potentially trade some players. Yeah, I'm not really sure. So, hopefully the Dodgers can win the World Series and we're not having to answer this question. But it's going to be interesting to see moving forward what they do. But hopefully they can keep the exact same roster and pitch and coaching staff moving forward into next year. But yeah, that wraps it up for this episode of Thinkin' Blue. Thank you for everyone that submitted a question. I had about 10 or 15 more, but I couldn't really get to them because we're running out of time. But I really appreciate everyone submitting those questions. If you haven't already, as I mentioned, make sure to follow me on Twitter, at BlakeHarrisTBLA. A lot of great Dodgers content there, so if you're a Dodgers fan, a definite must follow. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on those notifications so you never miss another episode of the podcast. This has been Blake Harris. Thank you so much, guys. This has been Blake Harris. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you guys very soon.